Hello everybody and welcome back to the snooker action, and just one after another, after Watchalong's brilliant win over John Higgins, we are now over to table number one once again, but this time it's an old English derby. It's Kyren Wilson against Jack Lisowski, two players that have had a brilliant campaign up to this point, but only one of them will make it in towards the semi-final step there. Is it going to be the world number two, searching for once again another title here at Belfast to try and defend his title that he's managed to win here previously last year? Or is he going to be Jack Lisowski still searching for his maiden ranking event win? And could it be the time for him to actually happen here? It's a very important start now for any one of them really to try and get themselves on the board now. It's Wilson with an early safety here to give away initiative back to Lisowski, who had a break-off, didn't really leave anything on there for Wilson, and now we've got a safety on our hands. So once again there, Jack Lisowski just sending the cue ball down the table here, and trying to apply some sort of pressure here on Wilson, who is going to come into this match as a favourite, inevitably, but this is a bad shot there by Jack Lisowski, and I think this is an unforced error, he missed this shot by simply just playing the cue ball way too hard there, and not too sure why that had to be the case, but in the end I think he's very lucky to have the blue in the way of the cue ball, and therefore has to force Kyren to do some sort of a safety play. But let's see what he's going to be able to do with that, as he has a little look to see the way the plant is set up. Maybe he's going to get the cue ball down the table there, but I think the more logical view is going to try and cannon that red away from the pack here. And maybe get it sort of away from the danger area. And that's exactly what he's tried to do, but he's caught it with the wrong way. And he's left the red on for Jack Lisowski himself. So, a mistake that was a blessing in disguise there for Jack. In the end, he's overplayed the cue ball massively, but he didn't leave anything there for Wilson. In fact, Kyren was the player that had to sort of eliminate the danger zone. In the end, he managed to eliminate one, but create two there for himself. And the first real chance is going to come the way of Jack Lisowski now. Had a very interesting performance against Watchalong yesterday. Managed to go 2-1 down, but won 3 frames on the bounce there. Once again, match as you would have probably expected to be. It was played in a very quick pace there at that time. And once again, Jack is just having a look to see if that red that he's going to play right now is going to get him on the black without any issues. Away from the cushion here, or does he have to apply the backspin and try and go the long way around? And he's nearly managed to get 2 reds in one shot there. Pushing another one very close towards the right corner there, and it could have been the perfect shot to try and take the black in towards the reds there with the cue ball, but obviously can't quite do that with the risk of missing the black in its all there. In the end, nicely taken by Jack once again, as he's got a red lined up in towards the yellow pocket, as he's now 16 points clear, so just about makes the black in, but in the end of the day I don't think he's going to mind that one, and just roll the red in towards the yellow. I say roll the red, he's absolutely hammered that one in. Obviously trying to leave that red over the right corner pocket for the future shots. And of course that could be a nice little bounce back shot for him in case he wants to send the cue ball in towards the bunch of reds. Because he's going to have a free red available to him in towards the right corner, which is exactly what he's done. And it's a clever shot there by Jack, and it's the one that he's got to get him. An awful lot of reds available to his name. It's already 24 points clear. Just one more red will take him up to 25 there. And just starting to apply some more damage here and try and win the frame in a single visit to the table. Something that he's managed to do against Watchalong in the later frames, but not so much in the early ones. And I don't think he'll be too happy with himself here, running very awkwardly to have himself positioned on this black in towards the left corner, or in the end taking a difficult yellow in towards its own pocket. And the decision was made by Jack, and he's going to miss this one by a slim margin. Played it with power, had to do it with power to get the cue ball down the table. In the end, probably was the wrong decision at that time. And this time around, it is going to be Kyren Wilson back to the table straight away here. And hopefully for himself, back to the action. And just trying to have a look if he's going to have this red potted in towards the right corner. And the path of the cue ball is going to cannon probably in towards the pink here. So has to try and control that to get himself lined up for the color. In the end, he's managed to force his way through here to just about be all right for a shot in towards the left corner. But still, it's very marginal there for him in terms of making the pink in towards the left corner alone. Not even talking about the fact that he still has to get himself on the red into the right corner there. So, very important shot coming up there from Wilson. And I mean, that mistake from Lisowski was probably something that we've seen quite a lot here throughout the majority of this tournament, as Wilson just about rolls the pink in. So obviously settling for some of the distance in between the cue ball and the reds, and having himself lined up for a shot in towards the right corner here, which is going to be a mid-range shot to say the least. And a little bit of the backspin applied to the cue ball, just slow it down and have it lined up for the black for the future shot there. Nicely played here by Wilson as he gets himself on the black. So, early start now to this match has been very much attacking from both players, which you would expect there, especially from the way that Jack Lisowski has managed to perform so far. You know, he had a whitewash against Harris de Heer, which lasted less than an hour there. He had a very interesting match against Mark Selby, which, you know, seen 3 amazing long pots in a single frame there, which he did go on to take on and actually close off the match there at the scoreline of 4-2. Then, of course, defeating Chip China, as I mentioned, once again coming back from 2-1 down to win 3 frames on the bounce. So if you talk about this break from Kyren Wilson, has got himself lined up on the pink in towards the left corner. Ultimately, didn't play the shot too well here, because he just carried the cue ball in towards the reds to put those out of the game for the foreseeable future. And once again, just has to send the red in towards the right middle, get himself lined up for the pink to take on in towards the left corner. And in the end, probably he's going to force himself to have the cue ball sent in towards the pack of 3 reds and try and have at least one of them go over and towards the right corner pocket. So he's gone for a plan B there, obviously not fancying that shot too much, because you would have to deal with forcing 3 balls consecutively there. In the end, he's tried to split up the pack of 2 reds at the same time and getting the cue ball nicely on one of them towards the left corner. And still is going to be more than alright to continue the break. He's currently leading by 5 points already here. And about to make it, hopefully, a win for himself there at this frame. And a single visit to the table there after, you know, giving up a chance for Jack Lisowski after his opponent got somewhat lucky of, you know, not giving the same chance away to Wilson earlier in the frame. Ultimately, it was Wilson that managed to take control of the position after the break of 25 points from Jack Lisowski. And now, as he makes the black in towards the left corner once again there, not for the first time of asking, he now finds himself 20 points clear with 67 points on the table there. So just screw back on the cue ball. And once again there, didn't really have to force his way through those reds too many times there. You know, as I say, the little cannon in towards the back of 2 of them has freed up the path there for him to dismantle the other clearance of 3 reds, just one by one there. And at the time, it was probably the only problem for him to try and deal with, as he won't need to go through the problem of a green and brown combination. But him already being 28 points clear, making up 29 with this red, over screwing back slightly for this pink. He now is 29 points clear with 51 on the table, so he's going to need one more red after this pink and one more colour to get himself lined up with enough points to actually be clear of the frame ball zone. And make himself a nice little break of 60 points here and counting. So gets himself down for the shot and lined up for the red in towards the left corner once again now. And having a nice little trajectory on the black to have a little cannon for the red. And send it back up the table there to maybe require a rare shot. I think you'll certainly need an extension on the current shot there. And just play through the red there, and the natural angle is going to be there for him. So because he played the pink on the previous shot, he still needs to get the red in, because currently he's 43 points clear with 43 on the table. And he hasn't managed to do it. So, surprised to see that miss from Kyren, especially with the way he's been flawless in the break. But ultimately, Lisowski is still alive in this frame. And, Wilson will be disappointed with himself. He could have had a little bit of a better positional play previously to have himself lined up for that red. And in the end, Jack is still alive and alright to continue this frame without needing snookers. Taking the red out of the cushion and pushing towards the black here in a nice way. So probably we'll have Kyren Wilson snookered here, so we'll have to use the cushion of one way, shape or form here, whether it's going to be the blackboard cushion or he's going to try and get himself towards the sort of left or right hand side of the table. When will Jack hit the jackpot? Well, it's a good question. I think what you mean is when he's actually going to win the title. And well, he's got some difficult opposition if he wants to do it right here, right now at the Belfast, at the Northern Ireland Open. And to be honest, I probably think it's going to happen for him at some stage. Surely they call him the best player not to win a ranking event for a reason. And it's probably a sign that he's actually going to do it at some stage. But, he's got a great opposition up against him. And, Wilson manages to get his way out of this shot there. But I wouldn't say he got it in the best possible manner, because I think that red is going to be playable here for Jack. And as long as he takes those two reds with the black, which has gone above the sort of pink line, but it's still playable. There is going to be a way back for Jack Lisowski in this frame, as he has a little look to see if that red is actually going to be possible there for him. It doesn't look to be the case, as I think the two of them are just about enough in the way of each other for him not to make that shot playable, which of course is very unfortunate there for him, but there's nothing you can do about it. You just have to get on with it. Try and play a safety of the one that you can see more of, which is going to be the front one, and try and roll up to the other red there. And I think you would hope that he hasn't actually formed a perfect plan there, because if that is the case, yeah, the same coach as Ronnie O'Sullivan. Yes, I heard that. I certainly heard that, but I think it's a very different result from Ronnie O'Sullivan. Of course, very different players, similar attacking approach, but you can't really compare the two of them apart from that style of approach. And it's a really nice shot from Wilson in terms of trying to get the cue ball in behind the green. And I think Jack can just about see enough of this red to get himself, well, potentially started on the break here, but I don't think he would like to have that unless he's guaranteed to have himself set up on the black, which wasn't the case at that time. So clearly just playing a safety shot there. Getting very close to the passing angle of the red though. And ultimately considering that red as an opportunity here for Wilson. Certainly not a guarantee here, but still, the fact is, it's going to be a chance taken by Kyren Wilson as he gets himself off to a brilliant start to the opening frame. Had to do it from 2 visits to the table after missing a red in towards the right corner. But ultimately, it's not going to matter to him too much here, because he is going to get this frame on the board now. 51 points clear after a wonderful long pot into the left corner. And, should have played better if you Jack Lisowski in the previous shot. And if he was playing in safety, he should have made sure that the cue ball was exactly on the ball cushion. In the end, it is going to be Kyren Wilson with a triumph in the opening frame. And ultimately doing something that, Trump hasn't managed to do. Was to get himself a good start against John Higgins. Of course, Trump himself managed to recover and win 2 frames on the bounce there to make sure that they were heading into the intermission with it being 2 frames each. And ever since then, John managed to take control of that encounter, and Higgins had simply no response for the pace and the pure aggression and strength and power that Trump has actually shown in that clash there. And I mean, Wilson is showing some brilliant shots here, getting the yellow, which wasn't easy, and then getting even more of a difficult green along the cushioning towards its own pocket. So still could produce a break of 43 points here to add to the 68 that he's managed to have previously. As rolls the blue in nicely. So once again, a red shot that, you know, is given up on him previously. Not this time around. And nice little ping there. Not going to bother with the black. But 36 points of a break to add to 68 previously means that Kyren Wilson is comfortably away in the opening frame now. Jack Lisowski has to find himself on the back foot. But as he's managed to do it against Mark Selby, you know, he's lost in the opening frame where he certainly could have won it. He lost it on the last black there to Selby and has managed to win 3 frames on the bounce since then. Let's see if he's going to be able to do that against the defending champion here at Belfast. As certainly, I think the crowd are going to enjoy it. And the way this game has been played, they're fast-paced. It's probably going to be favouring the Wilson to an extent there, just for the reason of, I think, throughout the tournament, he's been probably not playing as colourful and, you know, at times such great snooker to watch from Lisowski's point of view. But I just think he's been a lot more consistent than him in his performances and in his display against his opponents. You know, it's pretty comfortable against Kyren and Ryan Day there after a nervy decider against Oliver Lyons in the opening round. And, you know, Jack Lisowski himself, as I say, had a couple of scares against Selby because he could have gone into a decider there with Mark Selby, which is probably the last person that, apart from maybe the likes of John Higgins, that you want to be entering the decider with. And Kyren had him on an early lead there, which, to be fair to Jack, he managed to respond to brilliantly with him winning 3 frames on the bounce. Both against Selby and Lisowski, and Kyren, by the way. So let's see if he's going to be able to do it against the world champion here. As we're ready to get the second frame underway with all the reds and colours being re-established back to where they were previously. Jack is better. I mean, it's probably a fair comment, but I'm not going to agree with it. If you say he's had a bad tournament here so far, I probably would slightly agree with you based on the opposition. When you defeat Mark Selby, the world number 9, the world number 10, I should say, Kyren, which is a bit of a hit and miss player, and Harris De Gea. I mean, it probably is a bit of a tougher campaign than what Wilson had to go through with Ryan Day, Oliver Lyons, and Kyren himself. But ultimately, I still think Wilson is number 2 for a reason. And of course, Jack Lisowski is battling his way to stay in the top 32 there out of the very important ranking events like UK Championship. I don't think he is going to feature in the Champion of Champions anyway. But ultimately, it could be a very important couple of weeks here for him. But it could be a very important frame for Wilson. That's the worst possible start to this frame from his point of view. Jack Lisowski has got basically a gimme shot there in towards the left middle as he takes the red comfortably. So a mess was made there from Wilson. You know, the opening frame from Lisowski's breakoff wasn't too clean, but it makes sure that it didn't actually lead to a chance for Wilson. Same can't be said about Kyren's breakoff. Lisowski is now in prime position for those reds, and cannons a cue ball straight away into the main bunch. So once again there, early signs that this match could go on to, you know, as many frames there as we've seen sort of some of the deciding matches at the Home Nations earlier with Joe Yalon and Mark Allen and Luca Brissell and Jack Jones all featuring in those. But in the end, still nothing to separate the two players in terms of the quality that they bring to the table. And, right now, Jack Lisowski is having an awesome chance there to even things out for himself, as he's getting 16 points on the board already. He's going to make this 17 with his red. He just gets himself lined up on this black there in towards the left corner once again. So still, it's not going to run out of reds anytime soon, and he could just try and apply more power on the cue ball and just try and send it in towards the bunch anytime he feels like it. Right now he's managed to accomplish the mission of sending the cue ball twice in there, getting some of those reds to spread out, and having himself lined up for the black for a couple of more occasions. Of course, this time he had the right angle on the cue ball, and ultimately has to settle for some of the distance in between the white and the black here, but still shouldn't be enough there for him to actually put him off enough to lose the position and control of the potting angle. So roll the black in towards the left middle for him. And I mean, I did say it wasn't going to be enough there, but you had to pot the black like this. It wasn't difficult enough for you to actually miss shots like that. And just like it was in previous frame, by the way, 25 points for Jack Lisowski, and the rest is history in the opening one. Kyren Wilson managed to take it since then and produce breaks of 68 and 36 to his name. Right now, can he take the red in towards the left middle? Of course he can. Just about landing straight on this blue, so I think he's just having a little look to see where the cue ball is going to be lined up on the next shot. But these are worrying signs there from Jack's point of view and his fans, because twice now he's had a brilliant chance to get himself at least a single frame on the board. And as it stands here, he's going to be very lucky to get another chance here in this frame, because, you know, he's took some of the reds out of the game already. So only 107 points on the table as it stands. Going to be reduced to 99 very shortly, with, you know, Wilson is realistically having 4 easy reds right now next to him. The black is compromised slightly, but I think if you get close to it, it's going to be potable along the cushion into the left corner. And which is exactly what Kyren is trying to do right now. I mean, I did say close. I didn't say straight. I think it's a weird shot selection there for him. Could have actually had himself set up for a couple of more shots in the blue. But instead, he's obviously trying to play for the black. All about this shot now from Kyren Wilson to absolutely hammer the black in and get some of the traction on the cue ball. It was always going to be a monumental challenge, and once again, as I say, I don't know why you would go for that black previously, because I can't actually see him continuing the break here. You know, you can have a red in towards the yellow pocket as probably his best shot here, but it's not really the one that you would rely on in this type of position. Probably has to go for it, really. You can't afford to play a safety shot off the position like this, because you're never going to get all of those reds absolutely safe there. And is it going to be a perfect response from Kyren Wilson? Yes, it is going to be a perfect response. And one thing, unlike Jack Lisowski so far, you know, when Kyren got himself into those sort of trouble, he managed to recover every single time of asking. This time, very similar shot now to the one that Jack has missed previously. But Kyren clearly playing with all sorts of confidence and hammering the black in. Trying to send the cue ball into the reds once again here. And ultimately it does look like he's going to have the almighty unlucky destiny here, unless he can get through to that red in towards the left middle. He's going to have to find a safety shot here to play. And ultimately just having a look to see. Of course, he has to avoid a push shot on this one. And just having a look here. Yeah, he wants to be a lot taller than he currently is, of course. And yeah, I think he's probably just thinking about a safety shot now. Don't think he's going to be approaching the shot with a real intention to actually try and play it in towards the middle. So, I mean, it's going to be a nice little position with a waste of a shot from both of the players. It would seem, you know, Jack Lisowski producing a break of 25 points, and then Kyren Wilson, as I say, I think he's done all the damage to himself after having to play for that black along the cushion, and it doesn't seem like he's managed to recover since then. He had to go for a difficult shot off the red in towards the yellow pocket. Got himself with a little bit of a weird angle on the black. And right now, found himself in this position. And yeah, he still doesn't seem to make his mind up on which red to actually go for. Is it going to be a safety play? Is it going to be an aggressive shot? Just having a little look to see what's going to be available there to him. And in the end, he's going to He's going to go for a safety shot, so let's just send the cue ball in towards the black block cushion. And get himself lined up for a safety battle to try and exchange some good shots there with Jack. So 22 points of a break to respond there to 25 performed previously by Jack himself. Just having a look now to see if he's got any of those reds available that he can try and go for in towards sort of long pockets there. That doesn't seem to be the case. Probably just sending that red, which is very close towards the bulk line, down the table and get the cue ball in behind one of those bulk colours. There's a perfect plan. And that red is going to go towards the right corner though, so it may actually be a tempting invitation there for Wilson to try and take the red into either left or right corner. It seems to be lining one up into the left corner instead, so safety from Jack, that seems to be having some flaws, and let's see if Kyren is going to be able to exploit those flaws. Yes, he is. Is he going to be on the colour though? Yes, he is going to be on the colour, so just about gets himself on the black here. Going to be far from ideal, but it's still going to be good enough there for him to remain on the break. And of course, Jack, you know, he could have played that shot better. He had the cue ball lined up onto the ball cushion nicely, but still, he could have had the green in the way of the cue ball to have those two reds lined up for the left corner. And in the end, you know, he's given a chance away to Wilson, but it's a rest shot there and he has to bridge over it and he's going to miss it by quite some margin. So to be fair, I did say he was manageable, but he certainly was missable as well. And once again there, the turn will have to go back to Jack Lisowski himself. Wilson missing the shot by quite some margin there, and I think he knew straight away once the cue ball has left his tip that the red was never really going to finish. The black was never going to finish into the right corner pocket, and it's all about what he's actually going to be positioning himself. So similar to the one that Wilson had to actually overcome himself and his match against Showdown there. This is now a very important shot for Jack Lisowski, and he manages to take this one stick and make it stick there for him. So the black is now, wasn't touchable on the previous shot, and he's now going to be taken in towards the right corner. So once again, a little temptation of playing the cue ball in towards the reds, and temptation that Jack Lisowski can't refuse. And is he going to be rewarded for it? I think he's going to be alright on the red in towards the right middle. Once again, a bit of a risky shot there. As you can see the replay of the perfect line on the red on the previous shot of asking. Of course, good news for Jack is the fact that he's currently 11 points clear, and he's the player at the table with having 5 reds very much within his grasp as he takes the first one into the right middle. So only 5 of those to come as he takes the brown in towards the green pocket nicely. So, you know, he could have been either way. He could have gone either way. I think it's probably fair that we are looking to have a scoreline of 1 frame each after the opening 2 frames. You know, Jack Lisowski could have had both of those frames won, but of course the same could be said about Kyren Wilson. So I think both players will probably be a bit frustrated that they haven't done that, but probably also slightly relieved that they don't actually find themselves on the receiving end of things from one into another. 22 points is the gap now in between the two of them. Now 59 points still on the table. 1 red to be taken in towards the left middle now by Jack. And it doesn't really get more complicated than this, as he's looking to go 1 point higher than his highest break of the match so far, which he managed to replicate twice already. A break of 25 points. He certainly is going to do that now. So 26 and counting on this current break, as he got himself lined up for 1 more black in towards the left corner. Send the cue ball away from the cushion there, and on top of the red available in towards the right corner for him to take on. Once again there, done nicely by Jack. And gets himself lined up for the shot of the pink. And if he just takes those out one by one there, and he manages to convert those types of positions, of course he's just taken the frame ball out of the game. 37 points clear with 35 on the table. He's going to be a very dangerous weapon for Kyren Wilson to try and deal with. Of course, Jack was not too sure if he should have gone for that red and try and make a perfect angle on it. But as he now is 43 points clear with 35 on the table, if he just rolls the red in towards the pocket and make sure that, Wilson has no other choice but to pot it, then he's going to be all right there. But he's missed it by enough margin for Wilson to actually try and take it out of the game. And with 2 snookers required to tie, it could be come back for Wilson. But as I say that, he could have taken the red out of the game, but he decided not to do that. And, he has to go for this black now to try and roll it, but it's a very awkward angle. It has the pink, which is very much available, but he can't afford to go for the pink. And in the end, he will be surely frame conceded there by Kyren Wilson. Jack Lisowski may as well just play and pot 6 of those colours. If he wants to do that, he has to do it a bit better than that, because he tried to absolutely hammer the yellow in towards his own pocket. In the end, nearly fluked it. But ultimately, he's going to get himself a frame on the board. And it is now Kyren Wilson 1, Jack Lisowski 1. Nothing to separate the two after a very quick start to the match. Barely 25 minutes in between the two players since the match has started. And right now, it's already a frame each. Nothing to separate the two players. Someone has said Jack is better. Managed to certainly prove that in frame number 2, and he's had a better performance, but he still wasn't clinical. And I just have a feeling that one of these players will actually click into their zone. And if I had to make a score prediction, which of course I will do now, you can't say I'm biased because it's 1-1 and nothing to separate the two. I will actually go for Wilson to take it. I was always going to go for Wilson to win. 5 frames 2. Actually, I'm going to go 3. No, I'm actually going to go for 2 there. So a bit of a risky one, especially with it being 1 frame each. But I just feel like Kyren Wilson, we still haven't seen him click in that sort of 4th, 5th gear there, which, as a defending champion, he's more than capable of doing. And let's see if that's going to happen today, or is Jack Lisowski going to be the player? He's actually going to take it away from Wilson and try and run away with it. But, as I say, still think Wilson will come out on top. And I'm not going to go for the same scoreline as I predicted on the jump against Higgins. Of course, got that one wrong by a single frame. But ultimately, it was close enough. And, for that to happen, I think Wilson needs to win the first mini-session with a gap of 3 frames to 1, and then take the second one with 2 frames to 1 or something like that. Of course, 2 frames already been played. We're now waiting for Jack Lisowski's break-off to get us underway in frame number 3. And hopefully for Jack himself, of course, is to get him somewhat close in towards having a nice little frame of a gap himself. Had to come from behind there and recover the opening frame loss. Managed to do that. Right now, he's going to try and do some damage of his own. And we've already seen a couple of breaks being a problem there for the players. And we've already seen that from Jack. From Wilson, I should say. He managed to get away with it. In terms of, Jack Lisowski missing one of the next colours on the red. But just like it was in frame number 2, it's a break-off mistake. And Wilson can take this red on. I thought, in the end, it was a much difficult shot than the one that Lisowski had to his name in the previous frame. And Kyren doesn't manage to execute this one so well. Catches the jaw of the middle pocket, and in the end he's going to cannon the cue ball back in towards the red and leave the same one, or a couple of others there, available for Jack Lisowski to get himself onto the break. So I think the one in towards the right corner is going to be a bit more favourable there for him, simply for the fact of you can try and accelerate the cue ball in towards the reds, which we've already seen quite a few times. Jack is a fan of doing. And he'll have himself lined up on the pink. In towards the left middle, but yeah, I mean, he's lined up himself on the pink to be fair, but he has to bridge very awkwardly over this red and try and take the pink in towards the left middle. It's just missable, and I think he made it, and he certainly has made it, so it wasn't an easy shot there for him to actually make his way through, but he's managed to perform his magic at that time, and the poll is actually very much 50-50 pretty much, especially if you take into account the fact that one of them is the world number 2 and the other is the world number 29. 57% have gone for Wilson and 43% have gone for Jack Lisowski there. As the referee will just try and put the pink as close as is possible to the lower part of the bunch. And Jack Lisowski has to wait for his chance once again there. You know, he had those every single time in the opening 3 frames. And let's see how many points he can get out of this one. So far from the opening 2, he managed to get 25 points on the each time of asking. Of course, on the second frame, he managed to take it to the next level and get himself 41 points extra there to close off the frame against Wilson. And right now, he probably has to go for a difficult black here in towards the left corner, and he manages to make that one stick, to be fair. It looked like the black was going to stay out for one moment, but as Lisowski is still alive in this break, he's going to have to be facing himself with the difficult shot there of the red taken in towards the left corner. So has to be very, very careful on this approach. And you know, from the cushion, it's never easy for you to actually play those types of shots, but ultimately he is going to run himself out of position. So after playing some good shots there, in terms of the potting perspective, run himself out of position on the colour, so can't take the black in towards the left corner, and the logical point is going to probably be send the cue ball away from the main bunch and send it up the table, whilst having one of those ball colours in between the cue ball and the red. So the break is going to end once again there until it reaches the value of 26 points or more. This time it's going to be just 16 points there, so 2 reds to blacks. And in the end, it is going to be Kyren Wilson with a safety shot to think about. I think that shot from Lisowski is actually going to do some of the damage to Kyren here, because he has to go for the shot. Think playing the cushion first shot in towards the red, which always makes the safety play a bit tricky. In the end, he could just about get through to that red. And, I mean, could have played the cue ball better, because Jack can try and play this red in towards the green pocket. Try and get himself lined up for the next shot out there. And just having a little look to see if that's going to be the right shot for him to take on. I mean, if he is going to take it on, it's probably is a worth the risk taking on there, simply for the fact of that's the only red that he can realistically leave away there. And he's been producing some wonderful long pots. And there's another one. Once again, brilliant from Lisowski. Gets himself 17 points clear already now. And what a pot this is. It doesn't get better than that, even if you're Jack Lisowski here. Because even though it's probably not going to be as valuable of a break as it could have been, but you can try and send the cue ball in towards the main pack of reds here and try and end up on at least one of those. But, as I said previously, trying doesn't mean that you will land on any of those reds. And once again, there, break of 6 points is probably going to be the maximum that Jack Lisowski can achieve here. Just having a look to see if there's going to be any reds for him to try and push towards the black there. And so he has a little plant in towards the right corner, which he has to be mindful when he's giving the position away to Wilson. And try to get the cue ball nicely in towards the black and in behind the black. And I think he's actually managed to make it a really successful shot there for him, because he's just forced his Kyren to play in towards the left-hand side of the table. And, you know, before you know it, there's a plant out there into the right corner, and there's a remote red available into the left corner there. So Kyren has to be careful with this one. Preferably try to roll up the cue ball in towards that red that was actually, I said, was in open play. So, very interesting to see the reaction from Jack Lisowski. And, I mean, we can see the reaction here. I thought he was going to be tempted to take that plant on. Nearly makes the red off a double, though, from the black ball cushion. And still has the cue ball in behind the black here. So, played nicely. In the end, probably could have done him more damage if he actually made that red in and not wobbled in the jaws. And once again there, Wilson with a recovery shot and give initiative back to Jack here. So Jack will just consider his options to see if the reds are going to be possible in towards the right corner. And if they are, just try and accelerate the cue ball away from the main bunch and get himself lined up. My prediction, Jack will win 5-3. Well, not beyond the realms of possibility. As I say, it certainly has been so far anyone's game for the taking. And yeah, Jack hasn't got anything better for him to actually see than just to push the cue ball towards the pack of reds and actually give initiative away to Wilson here. As Kyren will attempt to get the cue ball away in towards the black ball zone. Maybe get the expensive colour into the play as well. But ultimately had to be careful with that shot selection because he's just left the red there for Jack to take on in towards the yellow pocket. And, you know, we've seen those made at that time already there by Jack. Today even, you know, if you talk about the matches with Chipchaya Selby or Harris De Heer there, he's managed to have some brilliant long pots, but as he clearly says, not this time around. Just Cannon's the red was closer to the cue ball, away from the pack there. And nice little shot there for him in terms of getting the cue ball safe and making sure that you'll have the entire pack in between the cue ball and the red that could have been available for Wilson to try and play. And Kyren just has to send the cue ball away from the main pack and get himself, once again, a bit of a surprising shot there from Wilson because, I mean, he keeps leaving those long shots available for Lisowski. But to be fair, Jack still keeps on not taking them, especially after the one that, you know, his brilliant pot in towards the green pocket, but only got him 6 points out of it. So after opening two frames, being so quick there, and players playing very much attacking style, it's going to be a bit of a, yeah, it's well and a miss there. And I think it's a miscue from Wilson because he tried to get the cue ball around the yellow and clearly getting absolutely nowhere near it. So it was a very, very weird shot for him. Left a little bit of a mark as well on the table. And yeah, he's going to be asked to put back there. I don't think Wilson is going to go for the same trick second time of asking. And he's just going to do it the normal way and try and get it two cushions on towards the left-hand side of the cushion of the table. And once again, it's not going to happen there for him. So attempt number 3 coming up. Of course, Jack hasn't got any invitation there for him to take the position away from Wilson. And has to just try and manage his opponent here. And I think the problem for Wilson is going to be the fact that, of course, he is going to be warned now. Because you can clearly see the full red in the contact. So he has to make this one stick there for him. And yeah, of course, that made the shot a lot harder there because, you know, if you're, obviously that's going to be impacting you mentally. And you're always just going to take a bit more of the edge than you would need in a normal shot to play. And in the end, it's going to push the red on towards the right corner there for Jack, but ultimately, the brown is going to come to the rescue of Wilson and make sure that that pot is not currently available there for him. So Jack just having a look to see if he's going to have the red available into the left corner. I mean, there's a potential plant that he can see as well, but the cue ball is going to head into the other reds, so probably not going to be the shot that is actually worth taking on there for him. You can always just send the cue ball in towards the two reds that are currently next to the yellow pocket. And yeah, Jack just looking to see if he may as well go for the shot if it's available in terms of taking the planter on, as I mentioned. Just if he can get the cue ball away from the pack there. I mean, or you can do that, just absolutely hammer your way through and get the plant in and get yourself lined up perfectly on the green. I mean, that was one way of doing it. And talk about conviction and confidence. What about that for a shot? I mean, he's played that with 100 power out of 100, and he still got himself perfectly on towards the green. And also a couple of shots to actually go and shoot from. So now the green will take the cue ball back down the table, and ultimately with Jack already having 31 points to his name, all he has to do is have a couple of more straightforward reds there to his name. And in the end, just get this frame over and done with there on his favour. Once again, the second brilliant pot that we've seen from Jack already. Both of them, of course, coming in towards their safety play there. And it gets a nice little favourable cannon there. So, just seems to be all falling in place there for him. Everything going according to plan. So far for Jack here. And take the blue in towards the right middle. Get the cue ball accelerated in towards the ball cushion. And have yourself lined up for the lower part of the table, which is surely going to take it away from Kyren Wilson and make sure that Jack Lisowski is the winner of frame number 3. Already 40 points clear. And 91 on the table right now. So just has to make sure he's going to be consistently on top part of the blue here. And he's going to get himself on towards the lower part of the table every single time he does that. So 46 points clear now. And of course, remember, he's still averaging breaks of 16 twice now, with this one being the second, the break of 25, and his highest one of the match being just the break of 41. So still not finding that consistency, and him actually being too clinical that I mentioned. Right now, take the blue in towards the right middle for the second time of asking. Get yourself 50 points clear. And with the yellow being out of the game for now, this could be an important point there for him. But of course, as I say, it will be a massive miss. And a waste of a chance there if he doesn't actually convert it into a frame-winning opportunity. Now 59 points clear, and just eliminating those reds one by one here. The next two reds are going to make sure that he's not going to need any more of the points to get himself frame 1. In terms of getting the third frame onto his name. And of course doing that with the 2 frames on the bounce there. Similar, you know, as I said, it was very important for Wilson to win the opening frame to make sure that he didn't repeat the same scenario of Trump against John Higgins, where Trump ultimately put himself on the back foot there, but managed to recover, winning 2 frames on the bounce, and instead had completely the opposite, barring this red, which is going to disappear. And it is going to be Jack Lisowski responding to Wilson's frame win previously, to himself winning 2 frames on the bounce, and now applying all sorts of pressure on Kyren himself, making sure that it is the defending champion that has to be playing some of his best snooker to try and come back ever stronger. And well, for now, I think his main target is going to have to be going to the intermission, with it being 2 frames each. And Jack Lisowski is certainly not going to have this on his mindset. And you can see it all started with this risky plan that he's taken on in towards the right corner. But in the end, it was risky, but it was brilliant. Once again, gets the cue ball down the table here. And he's going to have the black available in towards the left corner. But he decides not to do that, so plays the pink into the green pocket. And he's actually going to make it as well. So he's still alive on the break. And it's 56 points and counting. You know, he technically could still have 99 points of a break. But of course, very unlikely that you'll take both of those reds with the black here. In fact, he's got himself to have the position on the pink in towards the right middle. So a little bit of the backspin on the cue ball. And try and play for the last of the available reds. Try and get the cue ball in the gap there. In the end, going to be a touch short of pace. So try and have another wonder of a long shot. Not going to be the case this time around. And it is going to be the break of 63 points, which is going to get the job done there for Jack Lisowski. Not quite the highest break of the match there, but ultimately it is now 2 frames on the bounce. And it is Kyren Wilson who's got everything to do here ahead of the next frame. And hopefully for himself, he's not going to be heading into the intermission trailing by 3 frames to 1. He has to make sure he comes back and wins this frame number 4 to make sure that he's still got an equal and just as much of a chance of reaching the semi-final as it is going to be for Jack Lisowski, that so far has managed to clearly play the better game. And, he's taken this aggressive approach to the next level. And done it very, very nicely indeed. So all eyes are going to be on Kyren Wilson's trying to actually respond to it. As I say, apart from the frame number 1 there, which, if you take away that miss in towards the right corner, which got 43 points of advantage there to his name, was still 43 on the table. I think it was a good performance there, but it hasn't been good enough in frames number 2 and 3. And Jack just been consistently able to pressurize Wilson into those errors with the safety play and find those brilliant long shots. I mean, if you talk about the break of 63 points that he managed to produce, he had breaks of 6, which was a brilliant red in towards the green pocket. And it was a nice little invitation of 16 points at the early stage of it. So in the end, he needed 3 visits to the table there to win that frame and take it to his count. And, Wilson didn't really score any of those points. At that time of asking, of course, compromising himself even more there by going for the shot that I don't think was there for him. Trying to play around the yellow, so sacrificing the first shot of the 3 miss roll, which of course you can't do. And then the second shot was a more composed one, but he still missed the red, and therefore it has forced him to play the aggressive shot. Pushed one of those reds towards the corner, and therefore has actually pushed Jack Lisowski into taking that attacking approach and trying to take that red in towards the right corner himself. And Jack is going to be sitting in his chair very patiently, just waiting for Kyren Wilson to have the break off. And of course, hopefully for himself, it's going to be the same break off as it was in frame number 2 there, where it was an absolute gift by Wilson that gave away a chance to Lisowski, which, to be fair, he only managed to get 25 points once again there. And that was the chance for Wilson to try and actually do the damage, to go 2-0 up there. Instead, he finds himself 2-1 down and yet to return from a bathroom break. But when he does, we need to see a little bit of a response there for him, because Jack Lisowski is certainly going to try and pounce back on this one. And you're going to try and do the same thing that he's done against Selby and Anu, and that was winning 3 frames on the bounce, especially after losing the opening one against both sort of Selby and Chapchai at that time. And now he got himself into a position where realistically he can't afford to lose the next frame, and if that is the case, he's going to have to come back from being 3-1 down here. There's all eyes on the return of Kyren Wilson, and he is going to go for a break-off shot here. So once again, as I say, has to be better than what he's managed to do in the previous frame, and all about placing the cue ball in the perfect position for himself. Let's see the way the reds are going to spread out, and he's going to be a lot better than he was in the second frame. And ultimately, I don't think he's going to show any of the dangerous reds there away to Jack here. So very much important to have Jack Lisowski take this approach. And what a shot this is. Brilliant there once again from Jack. And even though it was a much better and improved break from Kyren Wilson, he still gets himself on the back foot. And now it's going to be Jack Lisowski trying to run away with it for the 3rd time in a row here. And losing their opening frame, and certainly gave him the fire that I don't think he was actually missing anyway. But it certainly gave him some sort of fire here, because he has been on fire himself ever since then. Right now gets himself on the perfect shot of the red in towards the right corner once again now. The only problem is going to have to be the fact that he has to find the cue ball through those reds and end up on the black in towards the left corner. In the end, I think he's going to be able to manage that and get himself on the black once again really nicely. So it wasn't easy of a shot anyway, to be fair. And right now has to be very clinical with the chance that he's actually presented to himself now. So 16 points is something that, you know, is already a statement there for his marks. He's managed to have a break of that value earlier in the match. He's going to take it a step forward. So the next benchmark is going to have to be the break of 25 points, which of course he's managed to produce twice already in the frames number 1 and 2. And then Easy now runs himself and runs the cue ball a bit far up the table. Still having so many reds to actually choose from. And this time in towards the right corner pocket it goes. 25 points clear. And going to make it 32 with his black. Once again there, just those long shots, keeping him under all sorts of control of this match realistically, because Kyren Wilson can't respond with those long shots because, A, I don't think he actually had the chance that was actually presented to him, and B, I just don't think he's got that style in his locker. You know, Lisowski was performing under such brilliance and moments of brilliance throughout the entire campaign. Right now he just has to try and settle down into this match and be very much clinical with the chances that keep presenting him to himself. He's had those in every single one of those frames, and ultimately, I said it could have been going one or the other way. So far, it has gone the way of Jack Lisowski in the opening mid-session, ever since the opening frame, and now having a break of 40 points to his advantage. Once again, having a chance to have the cue ball roll through the red and line up for the black there in towards the right corner. But he is actually looking at this shot maybe with a little bit of a sort of fear in terms of running himself out of position on the next shot. So just get himself back up to blue here. Obviously not trying to go for a maximum break in the quarterfinal. Especially when you talk about the opposition that he's up against. And, you know, no matter how well you're actually playing there, you have to make sure you don't leave any invitation there to Kyren Wilson, because you have to make sure that you're going to have to produce your best game, but also try and make sure that you're not going to get the best out of your opponent, which so far Jack Lisowski has managed to achieve. Once again there, goes for the blue in towards the left middle nicely. So push the cue ball through the collar here and get himself lined up for the red in towards the right corner. He's now 52 points clear with 91 on the table, so very much trying to make it a quick break in succession. And, you know, the first time that we're actually going to see at least one of the players win the frame from a single visit to the table, if this break is going to be the one that counts there for Jack. He's only a couple of shots away, though, from equaling his best break of the match here. And, you know, you add a couple of more shots to it, and he'll be able to overcome the break of Kyren Wilson that he managed to produce in the opening frame, which I personally thought was going to be the start of something there from Wilson's point of view. And instead, it has been Jack Lisowski's game ever since then. Once again, gets himself lined up on the black in towards the left corner. Didn't really have to use any other of the colours throughout the majority of this break. You know, did have to go for the blue a couple of times, but nothing major since then. And right now, just have to play the cue ball into the pack here if he wants to. And it doesn't look like he's going to be perfect into one of those reds into the left corner, but instead it's probably not going to be too bad on either of them. And he can actually take one more in towards the left middle there. And, well, I mean, he's gone for the more risky shot there. And what did I say about giving the chance away to your opponent? And he's not quite over the line here. It is going to be the highest break joined now by Wilson and Lisowski, but ultimately it's still 75 points on the table here for Wilson. Of course, that red would have been a frame ball for Jack. And ultimately, Wilson just having a look to see if now he can try and take the plant in towards the left corner. And it does seem like it's going to need some of that change made to it. And, you know, Kyren Wilson is more than happy to provide that change. And brilliant shot there for him. And I mean, this could be a massive turnaround. He can't afford to lose too many of those points. But what a steal this could be. Still 67 points on the table there. And as long as he gets the cue ball down the table right now after the shot at the green or yellow, he's going to be in around the very expensive colours, which is going to make sure that Wilson is actually going to be able to maximize those points, which at this stage he actually very much needs there to get himself, well, very much out of the jail here, because 3-1 lead and a 2-all draw is very different from Jack Lisowski's point of view. Once again there, Wilson just having a look at the scoreboard to make sure he's not going to run himself out of points. So 65 he needs to score now out of 67 available. So he can afford to lose 2 of those. And I have no idea what he was actually trying to do there. Yeah, I mean, I have no idea what he was trying to do, but he's lost himself a frame and he's lost himself another chance there of getting level with Jack Lisowski. I mean, he's played the cue ball in towards the red off the left middle, but he didn't judge it too well, and he's actually ended up dropping the cue ball in towards the middle, and that has led to him conceding the frame here. So that is actually going to be under most bizarre circumstances and very weird performance from Kyren Wilson, especially in frames 2, 3 and 4. It is going to be now a healthy lead to Jack Lisowski going into the second mini session as we go into the intermission break of 15 minutes. And I think that's the intermission that Kyren Wilson very much needs at this stage, because he needs to come back feeling very different to what he has produced so far and try and fight back with a comeback against Jack Lisowski, who has been very much in form ever since his clash with Chip Kyren in the last 16. Hello everybody and welcome back. So intermission is now over. 15 minutes have gone very quickly for, I think, both Kyren Wilson and Jack Lisowski. And now, well, it's very much two contrasting tasks there for them. I think Jack has to try and finish the job off there and trying to, as soon as possible for him. And Kyren Wilson has to find himself, go up a gear here. And that's the way to do it, with a brilliant long shot once again there. Something that we have seen Jack Lisowski use as sort of part of his game. Let's see if it's going to be, well, implemented nicely here by Kyren Wilson as he gets himself on the blue here, but ultimately the wrong side of it. So just has to realize and see if he's going to be available to take a red on in towards the right corner. Ultimately doesn't seem to be the case. So may have to actually go the way around here and try and get himself lined up for the black on the lower part of the table. And just has to push this red through though. So a little bit of the traction will be needed on this red anyway. And has to make sure that the cue ball is not going to be short of pace here. And it's not going to be. So it is now a nice little break for Wilson already. Getting himself 7 points clear of Jack so far, something that we haven't seen in the majority of those frames. Of course, every single one of those frames has seen Jack Lisowski have the opening chance. And he's managed to take those into frame wins, apart from frame number 1 there, which has seen Wilson respond with a brilliant little performance of his own, and the clearance of, not quite a clearance, but a break of 68 points. Actually got him into a nice position there at the start of this match, but a lot has changed since then, and now it's Wilson actually has to try and turn a page on him. I think Jack might take it. Well, I mean, Larry's locks. I mean, you probably have to say that now, but I still think Wilson will have a couple of words to say about it. He's currently on the break of 22 points and counting. He can get at least a break of 36 or so, with 2 more reds being available to him. 1-3 of a scoreline is still not the end of the world for you, because all you have to do is win the second session with the same scoreline, and then you're going to be in for a decider. I think a decider is something that Wilson will take after the end of that first mini session. And once again there, nice little shot from Wilson as well, getting the red available to his name, and this time wonderful piece of action on the cue ball as well. Getting that one in behind the red to set himself up a shot in towards the left middle. So now 30 points clear. And push the cue ball on towards the red there and have himself lined up for the pink in towards the left corner. Once again, it's the first time that he's actually going to use the pink here. So eliminate that one. I'm not sure if the pink is actually going to return back on his spot, or is he actually going to go underneath the bunch of reds. Kyren clearly very keen to get this one underway as quickly as possible. So just waiting for the referee to re-establish the position of the pink underneath the back. And once again there, Kyren has got this red, which is going to be the last one, I think, that he's actually got available to himself. And then take the black in towards the left corner and try and force the cue ball in towards the reds with just as much power as you've got there. Of course, the pink being right under them, it's going to be probably an advantage there to Wilson, because it's going to absorb the majority of the power and try and spread those across the reds. But Wilson has gone for trying to go for reds from the right hand side, something that I'm not necessarily a fan of, but it has worked out perfectly for Wilson here. Gets at least 2 reds to his name now, and to combine that with 45 points advantage, and in fact you can actually see enough of that red to take it in towards the left corner pocket. So very much just like it has been in the first mini session, it has been the match of very quick breaks and very little safety play. Once again, Wilson just taking that black in towards the right corner. So now 53 points clear, still with 91 on the table. So for now he's going for a 1-4-4 of a break. Of course, it's the first time that we're not going to see it maximum, unless we're going to see one really deep into the tournament in this season's campaign. You know, players have been thinking about where he actually you're going to get that record sort of done of 2 seasons ago, 13 maximums. So we're very close to that already, but it doesn't look like it's going to happen in this match here, unless there's going to be a late shock to come later on here. But ultimately, it's all about this break now for Kyren Wilson as he gets himself on the red in towards the right middle. Once again, nice little job on the cue ball. It's a little bounce there. It doesn't want to be straight on this one, or he'll have to use a lot of topspin here, and I think he's going to be all right though, because he's got enough angle to get the cue ball with a natural angle on towards the red, in towards the left middle. So 64 points clear, with 67 on the table now as the red disappears. All about this blue now for Wilson to get himself over that frame ball line, and blinking you'll miss it. It certainly has been that style of a performance from both of the players, really. And right now, Wilson just has to make sure that he's going to be able to keep up this pace in the upcoming frames. So he's trying to send the cue ball in towards the bunch of reds, try and open up at least one of them. And in the end, it looks like he's going to be able to take one in towards the corner pocket. Of course, this is the highest break that we've seen in the entire match here. And as Wilson pushes the red towards the left middle, I think that's going to be an invitation there for Jack to take this as a chance. And of course, it's only one snooker in it at this stage of the frame. But as he misses the red, I don't think there is going to be one snooker now. And yeah, it's a weird shot there by Jack, because, you know, he could have actually tried to fight for this frame, but just like he was on the 4th frame, you know, where Wilson missed a very easy shot at that time. This time it's Jack to try and do it to himself. And Wilson can try and take the same red in towards the green pocket, but he misses it. So, you know, it was straightforward for Jack there, not so much for Wilson. And in the end, it goes back to Lisowski here, the turn, with a very similar line of the cue ball to try and to be sent towards the lower part of the table and line up for the black or for the pink here. I don't think he wants to go for the pink, because he doesn't want to lose any of those valuable points that he's going to be short on at least. So at least the snooker that he needs right now, and if he takes the pink on one of those occasions, he needs the snooker to tie and force a respot against Wilson, which is going to be against his plans, of course. So has to go for the black here, which did seem to be a bit reluctant to actually try and do it. And in the end, he's going to be lined up for a red in towards the green pocket nicely, but not so nice in terms of if he takes this red in towards the right middle, it's going to be an easier pot there, but I can barely see him actually get this spot and get himself on the black, because he has to sacrifice the angle. And therefore, I mean, he's done his best, and he's still going to be very much above the usual line of the black, but he's going to get this one in, and still not going to be able to produce 2 more red clearance here, scoring 16 points out of probably the 32 that he would have wanted to try and force that snooker on the last available red. So in the end, plays a safety shot here and doesn't want this red to be visible to Wilson, but of course it has been the case. It is going to be visible to Kyren, and Kyren can take it himself and try and accelerate it away from Jack here. So he misses that one though, and yeah, had to be a bit more careful with that. But ultimately, it's actually worked out quite nicely there for him, because one of those reds has gone on towards the right-hand cushion. So if Jack manages to pot the other 2, still not going to be too much damage done to in his favour, of course. And I think he can just try and guide this red into the pink and get that one away from the pocket. Of course, doesn't want to pot it at this stage, but also doesn't want to show it to Kyren, and it's something that he's managed to do here. So once again there, attempt number 2 for Wilson to close off the frame after a little bit of a scrappy encounter here in this safety battle. You know, both of the players have had a chance to take the frame their way, and in the end it is going to be 1 point scored for Wilson, and it's all he's going to need to get himself nicely into a 2-3 deficit for now, as he rolls the nice little blue as well in towards the yellow pocket. So surely not coming back now for Jack from this. But ultimately, it's a very important frame win from Wilson's point of view. You know, it would have been very difficult for him to come back from 4-1 down. Pretty much impossible, I would say, especially with losing 4 on the bounce. Instead, he's managed to respond with sort of halving that deficit for now and getting himself into the situation where he only needs to score one more frame win than his opponent. And he's going to be flying now and away in towards that red, clearly considering a foul shot there. And 4 points, that not going to matter at this stage. So it is going to be Kyren Wilson 2, Jack Lisowski 3, as we head into frame number 6, with still all to play for. And what a quick match it has been so far. Barely 90 minutes since it actually started, and that includes the interval of 15 minutes on all the breaks in between the frames, and of course 5 frames of the action already gone. Let's see if we're going to have a response from Jack Lisowski now, or is Kyren Wilson going to be able to sustain his form for a couple of more frames and get himself back level at least for now, with Jack Lisowski for the battle to resume, and for one of these two, of course, to book the spot into the semi-final clash with either Tom Ford or Joey Long there. Very much looking forward to seeing the way that the evening matches are going to come as well. Of course, Joey Long against Tom Ford is only one of those quarterfinals, and after Watchalong has managed to defeat John Higgins, the last of the 4 is going to be very much a North Ireland derby. It's going to be Mark Allen against Jordan Brown for the place in the semi-final against Watchalong there, the only player so far to book himself as a confirmed player to feature on Saturday. And as we're going to be down to a one-table format, let's see if the referee is going to be able to re-rack the pink here, and we just wait for the players to take it away from here. You know, Jack Lisowski wasn't off to a great start in the 5th frame, ultimately gave away a chance to Wilson. And let's see if Wilson's going to be able to pounce back on this one once again here, or is it going to be back to the little trading of frame sequence, and we're not going to see players winning 2 or more frames in a row in quick succession, as we have seen in the past of this tournament. Also, momentum has been very important there, just as John there. He's gone into the intermission with it being a scoreline of 2 frames each, and in the end, he's gone out of it with a dominant winner over John Higgins with 5 frames to 2 in his favour. So let's see if we're going to have Kyren Wilson try and replicate that. Very much just waiting for the command, and there it comes. So we're going to have frame 6 started. Now he needs to be perfect off this break-off shot there, Wilson, not to replicate the same mistake that Jack made previously, and we've seen a couple of those, of course, from both Wilson and Lisowski previously, but also from Watchalong and John Higgins, not necessarily being too clinical with those. As now we get ourselves started on frame number 6. And, well, nothing significant that Wilson has given away there to Jack. I think he can try and take the red sort of along the safety line and try and get the cue ball in behind the yellow, but I think he misjudged the line there quite badly, and he's going to leave a red for Wilson himself. And a couple of to choose from, really. I think he could try and take that one down the line there in towards the right corner. Once again, really nice shot there for him. So a couple of first points there, very important from Wilson, especially in the last frame. Right now, once again there, getting himself the first raid on the board. And getting the cue ball in behind the yellow here. So couldn't make it the break that actually lasted there for him. But 1 point is going to be better than nothing. And of course, he's still going to have the cue ball in behind the yellow. And yeah, Jack takes the red, but he takes it with a bit too much power there. I think he was too eager to try and actually accelerate itself into that red, and could have played it with less power at that time. Let's see if he's going to get away with this one though, because Wilson Can take the red along the cushion, but also can try and take the red in towards the green pocket now. I think he's leaning towards taking the one in towards the green pocket. And is he going to make this one stick? Yes, he is. So once again there, brilliant piece of cueing from Kyren Wilson as he gets himself another point on the board. And he's now leading by 2 points to 0, but ultimately he's still on the position and in with a chance here to try and have a nice little positional play on the next shot after this blue. He can try and take the cue ball into the main bunch of red to try and spread those out as wide as he can. And in the end, are they going to be in the way of each other? I think they are. And that confirmation from Wilson, he's not going to be happy with himself and probably with his luck here. And yeah, he just about can't see enough of that red. It's a millimetre or two in it, but in the end, he probably has to play a safety here. And of course, that's going to ruin his plans. You know, it was off to a great start, getting 2 brilliant long pots there. In the end, it's only going to get him 7 points there of the 2 chances to have a break. And of course, the safety to try and put some more pressure on Jack Lisowski, which, to be fair, hasn't really been able to respond to ever since that intermission has actually occurred there. And the break of 6 points is going to end here for Wilson. And back to the table steps Jack Lisowski. Send the cue ball in towards the lower part of the reds. And I mean, he's gone for the aggressive approach once again here. And this might be the downfall and the way that actually you're going to have Kyren Wilson to get back in this match. Because, you know, if Jack misses shots like that on a consistent basis, he's going to be in trouble. And he's certainly in trouble right here, right now. As has to spend the majority of this frame time now, at least for the time being, sat in his chair. And Wilson can have one more chance of taking the red in towards the right corner. So his 3rd chance already coming into this frame. And it's the one that missed. And missed by some margin. That was some sort of aggression. I think he was controlled at that time, but he certainly wasn't controlling the pot there. Because, you know, he tried to spread the reds out. He's managed to do that, to be fair, but at the outcome of missing a red and leaving a red away. And leaving everything away there, realistically, to Jack Lisowski. I mean, just when you think it can't get worse for Jack there, it's just probably got 100 times better there for him. Very weird shot to choose from if you're Kyren Wilson. And this actually might give it a weight here to Jack because, you know, he's been decent so far. He's break building chances himself. And it's been all about the safety play that he's been struggling so far. And, you know, if he takes it to the same value of the highest break so far, 68 points, it's going to be enough for him to actually win this frame. So he gets himself a nice little start with the red plus green bunch. So I think he'll try to eliminate the reds on the top part of the table first. Try and make sure those are going to be spread out as wide as he can. And just have the table cleaned up at least at the top of it. And then he can try and go back for the mess on the lower part of the table. He might have to do that a bit sooner though, because if he takes the yellow in towards the right middle, it's going to be a bit of a trouble for him to get that cue ball stunned for the red in towards the green pocket. But he's managed to do it, sacrificing a touch of the angle. And let's see if the yellow is going to go back on his spot here. And I think that is going to be the case. No, it's not going to be the case, so the referee did check, but in the end it's going to be the yellow on the black spot, something that you very rarely see on the snooker table. But with the way the colours have been spread out by mistakes from both Jack and Kyren, it is going to be a very weird frame for us to actually witness here, but certainly the one that you can enjoy in terms of the brave building skills, as you're not really going to have a better position than this at your disposal. Once again, just getting that cue ball down the table here for Jack. Getting himself lined up for the red in towards the right corner. And he'll have a couple of shots to choose from later. You can go for the pink in towards the left corner, or you can try and screw back for the bold colours. Once again there with the blue joining the bunch, pretty much taking the yellow spot at this stage. And you know, it's only 18 points scored, but it's already 99 points on the table, as Jack eliminates one more red. He'll try and put blue exactly on his spot here. And free up the yellow spot for the future as well. But of course he would like to have the yellow to go back on that spot, because he'll still will need some of those high value colors to be potted with those reds to make sure that the end of this frame is going to come sooner rather than later for him. I think he's got a nice little chance to get the black in towards the right corner. Ultimately, I think that's going to be fine there for him because of the fact that, you know, the pink spot is available, so he won't necessarily go back on the yellow spot. Go back onto its original pink spot here. Gets one more red in nicely. So line himself up for a shot of the pink, I think. I was trying to see if he was going to go for the black in towards the right corner, but clearly it's better to have the pink sent back to his spot just to avoid the confusion for the future. Colors for Jack to sort out, and a bit weird though in terms of the way he's on the cue ball by an absolute mile here for this red. Has to use the rest as an extension. Has to be very careful with this one as well. The yellow's going to be there on the black spot, but he still has to make the red in. And when I say the yellow's going to be there for it, I mean he's still on the yellow technically, but it's a much more difficult shot than he could have been. And he may actually be an easier shot for him to take on the blue in towards the green pocket. I mean, yeah, he clearly didn't control the pace as well as he could have. So now has to take the blue in towards the green pocket. So that's not going to be according to plan. This is missable. But in the end, it's a wonderful shot there by Jack. And beautifully cued. Certainly getting the applause of the crowd. And that deserves it, because that was a shot and a half there for him to make. Once again, lovely little play here. And gets the red in towards getting himself lined up for the blue. And once again there, so just edging ever closer to that semi-final against either Watchalong or, of course, Tom Ford there. And I think whoever it's going to be, if it is going to be Jack Lisowski up against either one of those two, he probably will have Jack as the minor favourite, especially if he's going to have defeating the world number 2 on this week's TV. Ooh, powered the red through in towards the right corner. A bit of a chaos on the table. But in the end, it was a controlled chaos by Jack as he gets himself on towards the pink once again into the right corner. So has to be careful with this one as well. But every single shot now, all he has to do is try and control the cue ball to an extent that it's not going to cause him any troubles. He's now got 59 points on the table after he manages to pot this red in towards the left corner. And gets himself lined up on the yellow finally to go back on his spot here. And ultimately the job really was done for Kyren at the time of, you know, when you had that little chance of taking the red in towards the right corner with the rest shot. It wasn't an easy one, but in terms of getting on the positional play, but you didn't really have to play with that much power for you to actually miss the entire pocket with the red, and therefore get your opponent a chance, which Jack Lisowski seems to be taking full control of. You know, 46 points and counting on this break. And with the way we had a start to this frame, it's going to be a very quick, well, it's going to be very, very quickly until we get to the frame ball line for Jack Lisowski. In fact, the next red is going to be frame ball, because he's now 40 points clear. The pink will get it 46 points clear and get himself lined up for a red into the left corner to ensure that it is going to be a 4-2 gap for Jack Lisowski to try and hang on to. And that was always going to be the difficulty for Wilson, to lose out the opening mini session with a scoreline of 3 frames to 1. And let me just have a look here what's going on with the referee. So whatever it was, Jack just was expressing his concerns there to an extent. And whatever it was, clearly it's not going to bother him right now, because he manages to get the black in, and ultimately it is going to be his frame for the taking. So now Jack Lisowski with a 4-2 lead up against Kyren Wilson. Still, all of those frames being played very much in quick fire fashion. And I don't think we've seen a frame take longer than 20 minutes so far. With, it barely has been 2 hours since the match has started, let alone the playing time. Right now, as we get ourselves in towards a 62 points gap for Jack Lisowski. As he makes it 63, so he still could make it a century break if he manages to produce a total clearance. As a little look at where the yellow is located. And nice little shot on the black. Once again, really controlled there in terms of the positional play. And, well, taking this match by storm so far. Once again, perfect yellow and getting himself lined up for the green in towards the same pocket. And now, this time around, it's going to be brown in towards the green pocket for good measure. And blue, pink and black are going to be all on their spots there. So a really nice clearance and a really nice control clearance from the position that looked like it was an absolute mess when it started. Even though it was a mess that was quite well spread out there. Jack Lisowski still had to navigate his way through this mess. And right now, it is going to be 91 point lead that he's got to his name. And about to make it a century break, of course, with the next two upcoming shots. And it is going to be the perfect way for him to end this frame number 6. And it is going to be a total clearance century on the board there for Jack Lisowski. And ultimately, it is going to be a 4-2 frame gap there for him to try and hang on to if he wants to be in the semi-final, which so far, you have to say from the impression that he makes, he wants to be there, and he also wants to be there as soon as possible, because I don't think he wants to be playing around with trying to have this match last forever. He certainly is here to play, and he's here to win. That has been the performance from Jack Lisowski. A bit disappointing from Kyren Wilson's point of view, and not necessarily just in the particular frames, but all in all there, he had those chances to be going 3-2, potentially just level things up there with Jack Lisowski. In the end, it is going to be Kyren Wilson finding himself on the receiving end of things as he trails now by 4 frames to 2. And it's very much Jack Lisowski's quarterfinal to lose. And so we're going to see a bit more action here of frame number 7 coming up very shortly. And, well, now obviously, so a very simple task there for Wilson. All he has to do is to win every single frame from now on. And he has to make a 3 on the bounce. I think it's mission impossible there for him. Simply for the fact of, you can see Jack losing 1 frame. You can see him losing maybe even 2 and forcing a decider. But I'll be honest with you, with the way he's been playing, he's going to get himself a chance inevitably. And it's going to be entirely up to him if he takes that chance. Or it's going to be a bit of a waste of an opportunity there for Jack Lisowski himself. Now the referee has the colours and reds set up perfectly as we wait the beginning of frame number 7, which still could be the last one of the action here as we approach the 2-hour mark since the match has started. Very much a quick fire quarterfinal so far as it stands. We already guaranteed themselves to at least match the amount of frames that Watchalong and John Higgins have played previously. And, of course, that's going to be a bit of bad news for Jack if he is to make it into the semi-finals. He has got a bit of a bad history against Watchalong and ranking events finals. See if he's going to be able to put that one behind him. But until then, he still has to make it past Kyren Wilson. That he's going to try and hang on for as long as he possibly can. As we get the 7th frame underway, of course, it's Jack to do it. And he's entering the most important phase of the tournament. And he's certainly entering the most important phase of this match here. Gets those reds spread out quite nicely. And the cue ball line is going to have the white in behind the green in a nice way as well. So we're not going to have the repeat of frame number 3, I think, where Jack lost out on the break realistically and gave away a chance to Wilson. Earlier on, of course, done the same in frame number 5 for good measure. In the end, Wilson has to draw his chance from something else there and produces a decent safety of his own. But I wouldn't say it's been absolutely fabulous and brilliant. Takes the red in towards the right corner there with Jack. And he tries to power the cue ball in towards the ball cushion. Gets a nice little catch and a kiss off the green, which is actually going to be a favour for Kyren Wilson. Sorry for Jack Lisowski there, because it puts the cue ball even further down the ball cushion and forces Wilson to be a little bit tighter on this shot, and also just have limited vision in terms of those reds on the right hand side of the table, which is probably going to be the part of the table for him to try and deal with, and has to be careful with the cue ball not to be too close to the pocket, which, to be fair to him, managed to handle brilliantly. And once again, not giving away anything to Jack, which is going to be easy, but just the second time of asking, he's actually left that potential red in towards the left corner for Jack. But, you know, unlike what we've seen in the previous frames, he's going to refuse it for the second time. But it doesn't look like it's going to be the best possible idea for him, because he's going to catch the blue full ball and he's going to leave the same red from much lesser of a distance there for Kyren Wilson. So the quick fire match is going to continue here. And it's going to give at least one more chance away to Kyren Wilson here, as he tries to get the cue ball down the table and in towards that red for the left hand side of the table. So all about trying to get the red in first, of course, and also trying to navigate their way of the cue ball past the gap, if there is one, on towards the blue. Nicely done there by Wilson, completing both parts of the task that he had to his name. Now we'll have a couple of colours to choose from. Of course, it was very important for him to apply just enough backspin to have that cue ball lined up for the shot in towards the right corner. And now we'll try and take the blue away from the yellow pocket and put the cue ball down the table here. Nice little shot in terms of the line from the cue ball. How about the pace? Seems to be a bit too pacey there. And I don't think he's going to be happy with it. I mean, my view is limited. But if he can't see the red in towards the right middle, I think he actually might be in trouble. But I think you can just about see that red. Enough of it, actually, to guide that one in towards the middle. And drops it nicely. And he's going to be on the top part of the blue. So, as I say, if he takes it on a frame-by-frame basis, all he has to do is get it down to a single frame deficit, then force a decider, and then, you know, it's a 50-50 game for anyone to try and take. Of course, the main issue is going to be try and shut down Jack Lisowski, with any of those chances being potentially a match-ending chance there for him. In the end, you know, he was trying to be safe there, trying to play an extra safety shot. In the end, getting the cue ball head on the blue there. And it looks like it is going to be a massive challenge for him to try and keep that gap of at least 4 frames to stay as it has been throughout the last couple of moments. And so Wilson plays this shot nicely, very much hugging the front jaw of the pocket, being very gentle with it as well. And getting the cue ball to cannon off that red, push it towards the left corner. And now have the cue ball lined up for the black, towards the right corner for himself. So now 20 points clear. And still doesn't seem like he's going to run out of reds anytime soon here. At least with the way it stands at this stage of the frame. And once again, they're just having a look to see. Of course, the black has gone on the green spot. Very important to point that out. So Kyren will have to navigate his way through the pink, I think, because that's going to be easier way to do it, especially with him applying the backspin right now. Can't really see him applying so much power that he actually is going to be fine on the blue. But of course, that only is going to work out for him if the pink is going to be potable in towards the right corner, which it still does seem like it is going to be. I mean, only just though. I mean, it's very, very marginal. But he doesn't want it to be marginal. He wants to be comfortable because he wants to apply some of this power on the cue ball to get it lined up on some of those reds in towards the left-hand side of the pocket. And I think he's done just about all right there. But I think he's gone back to the sequence realistically, because he's going to have this red, which has the cue ball a lot closer to the side cushion this time around. And also, he's got more distance for the red to actually cover to get himself in towards the pocket. I just think it's going to be very awkward for him. And this time, of course, with the pink being respotted back at his spot there, he can't go for the pink, so he has to go for the blue here. So I think it might be a bit of a dead end now for Wilson to try and continue the break. Okay, I think he might be able to see another red to take in towards the corner. That changes things quite dramatically because that had all the angle in the world. And in fact, he was able to get him up to the black there, which is currently sitting onto the green spot here. It's going to be removed, and I think it's going to be respotted back to its original location, with the red not being in the way of that time. So once again, 35 points is the lead for Wilson, and 107 still is on the table. And the job is far from done in this frame alone there for Kyren. And, you know, all he has to do, and all he can do at this stage, is just try and every single chance that actually comes to him and take it. And that's not the way to do that. And he's going to give away a brilliant chance away to Jack Lisowski himself. And that is not the way for you to pot this shot. And Jack knew in the background straight away, as soon as Wilson hit that shot, he knew that he's going to get a chance. And what a chance this is now for a win and for a place in the semi-finals. We had the world number 1 progress to the semi-final stage. Can we have the world number 2 knocked out by the world number 29? Very much up against the odds here. And yeah, pushes the reds away from each other though, so could have done better. In the end, I mean, I say could have done better. Could he have done worse here? Has he got anything to try and hang on to? He's got a very difficult red in towards the middle pocket, and he was always going to miss that one in my point of view. So it's the first real chance not taken by Jack. And let's see if it's going to be second chance taken by Wilson. He's got the same red that Lisowski has missed in towards the yellow pocket here. Of course, he can try and go for a double and just stun the cue ball in the location of the red at that time and get it lined up for the black if it is actually going to make it. Hasn't made it, and I think the same red is going to be playable there by Jack. So could have been better, but also could have been worse there. As you just have a look at what could have been here from Jack's point of view. Had he potted the black and got himself onto a red, he may not actually need it now. What a piece of cueing that is. Once again, absolutely perfect as he gets himself another point on the board, but ultimately another chance now, especially if he can get past this sort of green face, which is going to be difficult. But he can, as he has shown us already, he can actually produce all sorts of performances against the likes of Kyren Wilson. And, well, he had a good thought about it and obviously feeling like I am 4-2 up there and I don't have to be rushing things. So has to send the cue ball towards the green and just have Wilson lined up with a bit of a difficulty in playing a safety shot here. Of course, compromised by the fact that he can't really send the cue ball in towards the bulk line safely without sacrificing the position on one of those reds in towards the right corner, because there's going to be black. There's going to be a red waiting there for him onto the top part of the table. So obviously Jack realizing that and forcing Wilson to spread those reds out, because there's not really a way for you to play these reds in a passive way that he's not going to have those spread out. And of course he's going to do it off the left hand side there, but ultimately he has to do it very much on the thin edge there. And yeah, it was never going to happen from his point of view. And let's see what he's actually left out here for Jack. I mean, he hasn't left out too many things here. I think the red in towards the middle is going to be too risky for him to take on. And apart from that, I don't think anything is on the table there for him. Might actually, I mean, if he clearly feels like it's going to be the one that he can get the cue ball in behind the main pack of reds, so that he's lining himself up for the black in case he makes the red in. But in case it doesn't, it's going to be the only one that he actually gives away as a chance for Wilson to take advantage of. And just having a little look to see, and that's going to be the case there for him. Doesn't seem to be though. And probably just lining up the cue ball on where he's going to be doing more damage to Wilson. So just screw back on this red there. Don't try and aim it anywhere near the pocket. Obviously try and control the position where it's actually going to finish. And get the cue ball lined up on towards the black ball cushion. And if anything, I think he was trying to send the red into the other red there. And he's going to be quite fortunate here with the way the red is just going to travel enough distance there to make sure that Wilson is not going to have a chance at actually potting that red in towards the left corner. In the end, of course, it's going to be a much easier of a safety for Wilson to play, but I think, you know, Lisowski will be satisfied with the fact that he's not going to be on the receiving end of another break here from Wilson. If anything, Kyren can actually try and take this red in towards the yellow pocket. And he's going to miss this one by a mile, though. But obviously, was never leaving anything there for Jack apart from the red, which he hasn't done at that time. So back to the safety battle we go. And, well, I say back to the safety battle. It has been a bit of a trying to find the red to attack there. Once again, Jack having a look towards the double into the left middle. And still, Kyren dominating the pole there with 59%. Very much optimistic pole from Kyren's point of view, because he's still finding himself on the losing side of things. And doesn't seem to be in complete control of the frame either. Gets back the turn though, as it was a double attempt from Jack, but it was more of a controlled one. That I think he was just trying to get the cue ball into the safe zone and get that red up the table and away from the danger area. So send the cue ball in towards that red there and get it lined up for the shot into the green pocket potentially for the future. And what a shot this is from Kyren Wilson. I mean, what on earth he's been doing there, having shots like that in his locker. What a brilliant way to get himself his 36 points on the board now, and certainly couldn't see that one coming for anything he's done, because, you know, it was actually one of those shots that he actually tried to be defensive there, playing a safe safety shot. In the end, it's not going to do him too much of a good here, because it is going to be Kyren Wilson with another chance of a break, getting himself 7 more points right now. So now 39 points is the difference in between the two of them, and still 75 on the table, but that number surely is going to decrease drastically with at least 3 more of these reds after the one that Wilson has just spotted. It's going to be available there for him to try and take. Well, it's going to be the first frame that is probably going to be lost here by Jack Lisowski. He can afford to do 2 of those, but of course he can't do that 3 times on the bounce. Kyren Wilson gets ever closer, getting another black in. 47 points clear, 67 still on the table, but has a little bit of a difficulty with potting this red now. The angle is going to be slightly against him, and well, I mean, I certainly didn't expect it, and it probably just shows that Wilson has been way below his best, and yeah, he can't really afford to miss shots like that anyway, but the fact that he's found himself having to play this shot is going to be as disappointing as the fact that he's actually missed it, and all of a sudden, I mean, it's not an easy position for Lisowski to make a clearance from. In fact, it's probably going to be really difficult, but he's still very much in this frame. And, you know, he's going to have more than enough points on the table to actually come back here and force another 5 to win potentially there, after it looked like for all the time, for all the money in the world, it was going to be Kyren Wilson to at least bring it 1 frame forward there after a brilliant long shot. In the end, it was the positional play and the spot success numbers that have let him down here today. It's not been good enough, especially in the... Well, I'm not even going to say especially, because it's been spread out quite awfully there for him. You know, he had some good spells, but he also had some horrible spells, and it wasn't really the misses. It was just the fact that he was playing himself out of position, forcing himself to play those difficult shots there. And in the end, Lisowski just managed to navigate his way through those shots better. And, you know, at the times when he actually run himself out of position, I'm not going to say that didn't happen. He managed to recover. And Kyren didn't. Let's see if he's going to be able to recover from this position though, as he pushes the red towards the ball cushion. So not going to have a clearance, as I say. It was always going to be difficult with the two reds being out of position. And it's still going to be two reds out of position as it stands here. But ultimately, and very importantly, they have both of those reds needed for Wilson to win this frame. And of course, both of these reds needed for Lisowski to win this frame. Yeah, he's gone for the shot there, Jack. And I don't think it was the right shot for him to play. I really, really don't. Because I did say he was going to need two reds there, Wilson. But he's going to get it now. Because the first red has been brought back into play here by Jack. And the second is going to be, well, available for him to play after he gets himself on one of the ball colours. So it's a waste of a chance there from Jack. I get that he was trying to get it done as soon as possible. And in the end, he's not going to be able to get it done unless Wilson makes a mistake here. I think he's got the angle on the brown here to get the cue ball up the table. Has to power his way through, of course, and send it nicely. So this is now frame ball for Wilson to try and stay in the equation now. And Jack Lisowski is not going to be done with this match just yet there. He could have been, and he played a couple of more safety there. I actually think Wilson would have been the first one to blink. But in the end, he takes the red in, and he's still alive in this match, but only just about. It's now 29 points clear with 27 on the table. So one more colour to ensure that we are going to be going, not the distance, but at least the distance of 8 frames. And then potentially a decider, which is going to be yet to come as well, but not quite there yet, because Lisowski is certainly going to come out there and try and do some more action on the table here. So 29 points behind, and 27 is on the table. So one snooker needed, and to be fair, it's something that Jack Lisowski can produce. He was quite close there to getting the cue ball in behind the green, but ultimately, as it skips past it, it's still going to be Wilson's chance to just roll the yellow in towards the left corner, which is currently guarded by the black, which he has missed previously. So just waiting to see the outcome of this frame, not of the match, of course, with Wilson being the one that is very much expected to win this frame. And Lisowski still requiring one more frame to become the semi-finalist. And so we get ourselves into a little safety battle on the yellow. And get the cue ball up the table here from Jack's point of view. I mean, he's pushed the green towards its own pocket there, which could be a perfect spot for the cue ball to be sent into, to be fair. But preferably, you would have tried to do the opposite point of view from, you know, if you had the brown there, and you could have had yourself a perfect position on the green. Could have been a different story there for you. So instead, this is now turning it into a little bit of an interesting battle, because Kyren Wilson now has given away a chance for Lisowski to get the cue ball in behind the black here. Of course, has to be very careful not to go into the pocket. And I mean, if he gets the yellow to run there, it could actually be a very nice attempt there from Jack. And just about, it's all about how much Wilson can actually see of that ball cushion. He does seem to see a lot of it, because he's got down to hit the shot pretty quickly. But yellow's going to be heading towards the black once again here. So would very much expect to be a remake of it now, with Lisowski trying to do something similar. And decent effort, but has he got it? Don't think he has. Don't think he has. I think Kyren is going to be able to see the yellow out there, but he's not sure there. So it's a decent effort once again, as I say. A couple of millimeters on towards the left, and he could have been a snooker that, you know, Jack Lisowski was so much looking for. And instead, Wilson can get through. We'll have to be careful not to pot the green at that time, because couldn't really control the way that he was sending the cue ball and the yellow in towards the green pocket. In towards, well, right now it's all about Jack just having a look to see if he's going to have that red available to his name. I mean, he's tried to get the cue ball in behind the green, but that was one of those reckless attempts that probably is going to gift this yellow away to Wilson. Doesn't seem to be the case. I mean, Lisowski got away with it at that time. But ultimately, Wilson doesn't have to face any difficulty with getting through to this yellow. And in fact, maybe just try and attempt a double here. Or try and line up a snooker of his own. There was an attempt there of getting the cue ball in behind the brown. But in the end, it wasn't quite as successful as it could have been. So back to Jack we go. And his effort to try and send a little bit of chaos here on the table. Let's see where the yellow's going to finish. And he's going to finish very much within the vision of Kyren Wilson, which is the only thing that you need to know. So probably the way to describe it, this match is going to have to be Captain Chaos of Jack Lisowski trying to cause an absolute mayhem. And, you know, out of the first 6 frames, he managed to do that 4 times in his favour. Doesn't look to do it 5 times out of 7 though, as it still very much is Kyren Wilson's frame to lose. Tries to roll the yellow in towards its own pocket there, and a lovely little shot for his name. Gets himself lined up on the green as well. So, all about the next frame now for Jack, surely. No way back in this one. And, you know, Kyren is still alive there, and he just has to try and frustrate Lisowski even more now, because he has to take this frame as a massive turning point in this match. Oh, what a yellow this has been, by the way, into its own pocket. Wonderful, wonderful strike there by him. Of course, controlled with the cue ball's point of view as well. Very nice once again there, as he gets the brown in as well. And the blue is going to follow with a nice little strike. That was quite close towards the corner pocket, to be fair. So hammer the pink in is not going to be the case. Look at my prediction. Well, I mean, you did say 5-3, but I did actually say 5-2, I said, in favour of Kyren Wilson. I still think Kyren will have something to say to potentially force a decider here. As it is now, Kyren Wilson 3, Jack Lisowski 4, going into frame number 8 there. And still no real sign that that's going to be the last frame of this quarter-final encounter. As you know, we're not too far away from Jordan Brown, Mark Cullen, Joey Long and Tom Ford being scheduled to play their respective quarterfinals. And right now, we still have no idea on who's going to be victorious in this particular clash. Is it going to be Lisowski finally getting himself over the line? You know, he had a nice little chance in the previous frame. Had he not gone for that red, I think he could have had a nice little 50-50 chance of claiming the clearance, which would have made him the winner of this battle with Wilson. In the end, he decided to go for the red in towards the yellow pocket, and that has turned to be his worst enemy at that time. Wilson managed to get enough points to make sure that Lisowski needed snookers at that time. And now in towards the 8th frame we go, which is going to be still anyone's there for the taking. Lisowski, of course, is still going to be the massive favourite, with him having one more frame win than Wilson has managed to produce, but ultimately, as Kyren is going to be the higher rated seed, and is actually the player that has won the previous frame, I think that's also going to be one of the matters for you to actually take into account. As we just have a little look to see with the players coming back onto the arena. Of course, both of them have gone for the bathroom break after such a lengthy and, of course, difficult frame for both of them to manage. Very much looking forward to see who is going to come back first out of the two players, not in terms of actually to the table, but who's going to get the first chance of frame number 8 is going to be massive. And how many points are they actually going to get out of it? Because we're still yet to see sort of players consecutively stringing a brilliant only single visit to the table win of the frame. In the end, I mean, Lisowski did manage to do that with 104 points, but he still had a couple of early slip-ups until then, and it was one of those chances that I still don't really understand how Wilson was happy to give away that chance, because that was for a 3-0 draw or for a 2-4 deficit to his opponent. In the end, left him with an absolute mountain to climb, and he's managed to climb the first hill. Is he going to be able to get it into the 50-50 match with the decider, or is Lisowski going to take it right here, right now, and make it a 5-3 win in his favour? All to play for, and ultimately all to focus on at the start of this frame. Who's going to be starting to feel in the nerves here. I think if anyone of the two players is going to actually have the mental side of the game come into play, is going to be Jack here, with him being so close, but yet so far away from that semi-final spot. Of course, Kyren has been at this stage a lot more times than Jack has managed to himself. As we still wait for Kyren to return on towards the arena. And very much massive. First couple of shots are going to be massive as well, because, you know, the break-off is going to be huge, because that's going to ultimately give or not give away a chance for one of these two players. Of course, it is Kyren Wilson with a break-off shot, as you would expect. For frame number 8, needs to make sure it's going to be better than what we've seen in frame number 3. Sorry, frame number 2 there. He wasn't breaking off for the frame number 3. And does seem to spread the reds out quite nicely here for himself. And the cue ball is going to be in a nice zone as well. So, Wilson managed to get the early scare out of the way. And he's actually got himself into the battle of the safety here. So, not going to give away anything easy to Jack here. I think Jack is probably going to be forced to take the black out of the game, with the red ball being sent in his line of trajectory, and just about manages to avoid it. And Kyren absolutely sprinting to see if something is available there that he's looking for. In the end, I think it was a bit of hot water that he asked for someone to bring him onto. We're now done with that. I think he's going to try and take the red in towards the main bunch there. Of course, not take any risks so early into the frame. Just to say that, I mean, he was very close to catching the jaw of the middle pocket, and the result is actually going to be really nice for him, because apart from the left-hand side of the table, nothing's going to be available to Lisowski right here, right now. And get the cue ball down the table, and get it lined up for a next shot on towards the left corner there for himself. Decent shot from Jack once again there, but so far you just have to feel that, you know, the momentum is on Kyren's side, and he can try and take this red in towards the left corner without really being so fearful of the risk of dropping in towards some of the other reds. Ultimately, it makes a brilliant red there, so it's another one for the highlight reel, but in the end it's not going to be the one that actually gets him onto the next colour. Unfortunately there for himself, he's going to have to try and do it off the next time of asking. Just has to try and see the edge of the yellow to try and play a safety shot of it. And I mean, you could see a lot more from the edge of the yellow. In the end, a lot more success, as you can see, 7 out of 8 for Wilson, 5 out of 9 there for Jack, but you know, from Jack's point of view, I think he was attempting more of those, obviously with the 9 from his point of view. But also, I think he was doing that when he had a gap there, so he was trying to get that gap extended, or of course, when he was a 4-2 gap to his name, get the match won and very much over and done with, as a very much a thin edge of the red there, and that's going to be against him. So catches the blue pretty much full ball here, but not going to give away a chance. So just a shot for Wilson to try and take the cue ball up the table. As he pushes it towards the green here. And I mean, if he's going to go in behind the green, that's actually going to be a great advantage here to Wilson. But I think he's going to be having too much of a pace here. And Wilson just having a look to see if Jack is going to be able to deal with this position. Of course, sends the cue ball down the table and in towards the main bunch of reds, but has to try and do it with just as little power as possible. In the end, you'll leave a double on for Wilson, and I mean, if he guarantees himself that he doesn't leave any other reds, he might actually be the shot that, you know, is worth taking on there. Probably under different circumstances, though. Or maybe not there. Maybe you will take this double on. No, you won't. As I say, different sort of circumstances. You might as well have done it. And right now, he tried to find a little margin there to get the cue ball in behind the brown. And now get himself into a nice little comfortable position in his chair. And safety success has actually been beneficial for Wilson. And you can understand why. Because I think he was actually the player that was playing more of the safety shots. And it's going to be a bad shot here from Jack. He's going to give 4 points away there to Wilson. And ultimately, I think he's going to give a chance away in towards the right corner. I think he's going to try and use the rest, of course, on an extension if he needs it. And just try and guide that red in towards the right corner. The yellow's going to be there waiting for him. Very close to its own pocket. And he's going to catch the front jaw, though. And is he going to make this red visible there to him? To Lisowski, I mean. I think it is going to be visible there to Jack. So, once again there, chance given and a chance not taken. It wasn't easy, but probably could have done a bit better there from Wilson's point of view. And Jack certainly could see enough of that red. And, I mean, what a shot he's played to get himself lined up on the pink. I'm not sure if that was actually planned or you got slightly lucky there, but he got a perfect little kiss off those reds to get himself lined up for the pink here in towards the right middle. The problem, of course, is going to be the fact that he hasn't got too many open reds to try and open up here. I mean, if he is going to try and open up the entire bunch, he's going to risk to run himself with no reds to actually play here. I mean, he's still gone for it, and is he going to finish on anything here? Doesn't seem to be the case. Maybe he's going to be able to get through to this red in towards the right corner, the left corner, I should say. And that is the case, so this could be a frame for Jack Lisowski to try and finally finish the job off here. You know, he was unable to do it in the previous frame. And Wilson, of course, will not be happy with himself once again there. Last time, he lost a frame to Lisowski. Of course, he was after a missed shot from the rest. A player that is usually so clinical out of those shots. Could be an absolute flaw in his game today. Because this could be technically the second frame that is going to be lost because of that. Not being too accurate on those rest shots. And, I mean, if you look at the position now, especially after the previous shot from Jack here, he's going to have this red towards the left corner to try and play it and line himself up for the pink once again there in towards the middle. Of course, the black is not going to be available to go in towards the right corner just yet. That's going to be changed by Jack in some of the future shots to come. And gets himself into a prime position for the Turrets once again there. And you have a look at this shot from Wilson from the rest there. Didn't look like it was going to do him all the damage in the world there, but a couple of shots from Jack Lisowski, and all of a sudden, the position is unrecognizable from the thing that we've seen previously. And already having 17 points to his advantage. Of course, the prediction of 5 frames to 3 is actually going to look very nicely right now, with the way things stand. And, well, Jack is just having a look to see which red is he going to take on here in towards either left or right corner, as he still gets this one in. And he's going to be lined up for the black in towards the left corner. Bit too much of the angle on the cue ball, but I think that's not going to be the main problem there for him. It's going to be all about trying to place his hand in a way that is not going to be too awkward there for him. And try and get through to the cue ball there. Maybe actually not going to be worth it at that time. So I'll take the pink in towards the left middle. It's a difficult cut there for him, of course. But it's still going to be more comfortable than actually trying to bridge over 2 reds at the same time. And he manages to take this one. So, of course, these are the shots that are going to be the difference here for Jack Lisowski. So far, he's been managing to make the majority of those, apart from maybe some of the ones that he's missed in the previous frame. But overall, you have to say it has been a good performance here from Lisowski. It hasn't been perfect, but it has been the one that is probably going to get him into a semi-final if he just manages to keep himself going on the break and get maybe 24 points more on his board of some of those difficult reds out of the way. All of a sudden, he's going to be in absolutely prime position and very much the favourite to take this frame away there. And therefore, of course, take the entire match away from Kyren Wilson. 33 points clear with 91 on the table. So being very close already as we're quite deep in towards those reds. And you can just have a look and see the way it's all started with a brilliant shot of getting himself on the pink. And the rest could be history here for Jack Lisowski. Of course, hasn't had too many of those ranking semi-finals at his name. But you could have one more of them coming up shortly. And as I say, I can't really see the place for him to actually make a mistake on and slip up. 48 points clear, 49 with this red and 75 on the table. Couple of more reds, couple of more blacks there, and it's all going to be done and dusted for both Kyren Wilson and Jack Lisowski from different points of view, of course. And you have to say, you know, Kyren has played his part. Fortunately, has been on the receiving end of things, and him losing 3 frames on the bounce there, especially that fourth one when he had a chance to make a brilliant clearance. In the end, he's going to probably look back on it and think this was the missed opportunity at that time, but full credit has to go to Jack Lisowski as he's now ahead by 63 points. So this next red is going to be taken. So 64 points in between the two players, 59 on the table. Finally, my prediction correct. It was correct, to be fair. So fair play and shout out to you. You have done correctly there, Sunwell. 70 points clear and certainly no way back for Kyren Wilson as he has been. The match and the break of Jack Lisowski here managed to come away under all sorts of pressure and just do it against all odds there, especially in the position that he actually encountered at that time. So 71 points advantage, and it is going to be a handshake there from Wilson, and Jack Lisowski is through to the semi-final stage of the Northern Ireland Open. Him and Watchalong are the first 2 players to do that. And we're going to be waiting to see and who's going to be the 2 players to join them. But for now, it is an absolute pleasure for Jack Lisowski, of course, to be part of the contention and still be one of the 4 players that is going to be playing on Saturday at the one-table format. By far the best result that he's managed to achieve this season. And what a player to do that against Kyren Wilson, the world number 2. Still would very much say that the main damage to Wilson has been done in the early stages. You know, him winning the opening frame has probably been a bit of a thing that's actually turned the match against him, with him losing 3 frames on the bounce since then. And in the end, it was just enough there for Lisowski to manage his way through those frames and, you know, win the opening mini session and just get it to a scoreline of 2 frames each into the second mini session there. But all in all, probably have to say the better player has won today, and it is going to be Jack Lisowski through to the semi-final stage where he's going to meet either Watchalong or Tom Ford, of course, and potentially, of course, he is going to be the higher rated player of any of those 3, and he's going to be the favourite for the final spot, of course, potentially set up with another ranking event final with Watchalong there, but this is all to come there. Thank you very much for everyone joining in, and we'll see you around for the semi-finals tomorrow. Plenty of action still to come, and certainly the best action as we're now down to just last 3 matches being played, and now finally, of course, entering the best of 11 first to 6 format. So once again, thank you very much, and big shout out to everyone who's watched the video. And yeah, we'll see you around soon for more action. Speak to you soon. Take care.